you are the guy that tunnelled underneath your house, built a rocket-powered bike, created a hot tub car, and that's me just only scratching the surface.
I started this when YouTube was only a year old, I think, roughly. There was no money in it. There was no job. It was, purely for fun.
25th of March 2010, Furze was arrested by Lincolnshire police for possessing an object converted into a firearm.
It was basically a super soaker full of petrol, and it had like a 20-foot flame coming out of it.
There's no way that he lives in the bunker. Do you want to tie that up right here, right now? What has been probably your toughest challenge to overcome on your journey as a creator?
I mean,
Colin, you are probably many different things to many different people. For me, you are the guy that tunnelled underneath your house, built a rocket-powered bike, created a hot tub car, and that's me just only scratching the surface. But Colin, in your own words, who are you and what do you do?
Who am I? I get asked this question a lot because, people will say, like, how do you want to be introduced? And I never know what to say. And I just say, I'm just a YouTube creator, engineer, inventor sort of thing. But I always think inventions, is that the right way of describing me? Because I've never invented anything that's anyone else has gone to use or gone to sell. And I always think an invention, you invent something to solve a problem, whereas most of my things either cause problems or they're just for entertainment and just for the what if sort of thing. So I'm like, is that really an invention? But yeah, I don't really mind really. I think how you've described it is best for you, and how other people want to describe it is best for them. So I just, let people make their own minds up, really.
And you first uploaded a video to YouTube 17 years ago. And in that time, you've amounted to over 13 million subscribers, 1.78 billion views, which is just over 403 video creations on the main channel.
Yeah.
That actually amounts to 4.4 million views on average a video.
So I've not
since
done any
the
of
beginning.
These calculations.
And that's without even taking the second channel into account. But when you actually just process those numbers, the size of those numbers for a minute, how does that make you feel?
The 1.8 billion thing, I'd not looked at that for a long time. I try not to look at it all too much. I found you can get too obsessed with numbers and stuff. You can get to subs, got to do this, targets and things like that. And ultimately, it's not really what it's about. Because obviously I started this when YouTube was only a year old, I think, roughly, when I first started my channel. So there was no money in it. There was no job. It was, purely for fun. And I always think like, that's what I want it to be like, it is purely for fun. This is what I used to do in my spare time as a hobby. And the more involved you get in it, the more obsessed you get with it, it starts to turn into definitely a job. I mean, it is a job, but then it can become a chore and it can start to take over you in different ways. So I'm constantly having to try and rein myself back in to just be like, just remember what this is. Do you know what I mean? This is you just wanting to have a laugh. So I try not to look at the numbers too much, really.
And I think that part of the numbers is always the latest numbers, what you've done, what's been going on. As I say, to many of those subscribers and active viewers of the channel that tuning into the videos, they're going to think of you or the content as a lot of the stuff that I initially read out, the bunker, the bike. But to many people, you are many different things. But the one thing that I don't think many people will know is probably the how you got to where you are today from the beginning and the bit before YouTube. So what I want to understand, I know it's out there, people really want to have a look, but if you could pick a key moment from your childhood that you think set you to the stuff that you like, the mold of the things that you like to be, the creative, the carnage, do you remember thinking back and can pick one?
I can think of an event which definitely set me on the sort of the path I'm on, but that was not childhood. That was probably 25. But before that, so I suppose early, we've got a fair that comes into town every year, March. It's quite good. And I used to, as a kid, I was obsessed with how the fair rides come in on the back of lorries, how they all got out, put together. I always used to want to build myself a little fair ride out of Lego or Meccano. I used to live next door to a quarry as well, which was where I used to basically play as a kid, up a quarry. Can't do that nowadays, can you? And they used to tip pallets and stuff, and we used to go up there building dens, tree houses, digging underground dens. So I always say my bunker is just an underground den, but with adult money. So it's basically just what I used to do as a kid, but better. And that's partly why I wanted to do it. So that's always been now. So I suppose there's a multitude of things, you know what I mean, with where I grew up and just my fascination with mechanical stuff and things like that. But one of the things that sort of set me off with the whole YouTube messing around and stuff is me and Rick went to the Italian Moto GP, 2005, and what a scream that was. Like Saturday night after qualifying, it was just mayhem. There's people, they'd brought engines out of like sports bikes, just had them in a frame, and all night they'd just be bouncing them off the rev limiter. There was people whacking about with mopeds. They're just like cutting trees down. There's just people wheeling everywhere, fires and stuff. And it was just nuts. And me and Rick were like, we want a piece of this. This is absolutely brilliant. We're just walking around like, you know, from just going from absolute carnage to carnage. So the following year, we said, right, we're going to go to the French Moto GP because it's a bit closer. We're all going to buy cheap mopeds, sort of things, and then we'll moped there. And when we get there, we'll, you know, go nuts or whatever, smash all the feds up or whatever, and then come back in the van. And that's so we kind of did that. And it was just like that start of just messing around doing stuff. I'd filmed it. There is a video. It's not online or anything, but and that was kind of like the start of the kind of the doing stuff, if you know what I mean, the little bits and bobs. And I used to BMX, and I'd slowly started to come out of that. I used to ride flatland. I basically got to a point where I was 20, 25, and it was just all my mates had stopped doing it. So I was essentially hanging around with 16-year-old kids, sort of thing. And I'm like, it's a bit weird, sort of thing. So I kind of just stopped doing that. But I did miss the competition element, like the going out, trying to improve, you do something new. You know, there's always something to learn, isn't there, on a bike? You never get to the end, sort of thing. You never complete it. So there's always something extra. And I really miss that. And I thought by building a massive bonfire and going out collecting pallets and trying to hoover up all this resources from the area would kind of fill that gap of me, you know, like, oh, I got to get some more stuff, got to make it bigger. And that was kind of like my replacement of flatland, very weirdly. And obviously there was a world record up at stake at the end of it. And I bought the truck for that, my old Hilux, which I've still got. So there was that, going to the Moto GP, getting these rubbish old mopeds, building a massive fire. And then right at the end of it, sort of the YouTube became a thing. So I sort of started to grab bits of video and stuff from my old BMXing days, you know, building the fire, messing around with the truck and stuff. And that's sort of where the channel started. And then it sort of evolved into like this engineering channel, because also at a very similar time, my dad passed away. And when I lived at home, I was never allowed in his shed. He was like really protective about his shed. He used to say, no, there's no room in there. You can't go in there. And when he died, I mean, I went in there and like, there was room. It was just, it was obviously his space. He just, wanted it for himself. Fair enough. So I cleared that out, and that's when I started to be able to make stuff. Because before that, I used to try and make things in my bedroom. Like I'd invented some plumbing tools. I had a lathe in my bedroom at one point, and I like look back at it now and think like, why was that a better option than clearing out the back of the shed? Like literally having a lathe in your bedroom, and when you turned it on, like in the dining room underneath, you could do it. So I mean, it's utter madness.
But that is kind of madness, kind of crazy. Like no one would see that as a career path to how to get to YouTube, just kind of doing, as you say, stuff and things. But like the reason that you wanted to do stuff and things, were you always like inventive as a kid? Was like the DT, was the hands-on subjects, was that the stuff that you like to do?
It's being a creative person. Like you're obviously, you've got a drive to do stuff with all the, things that you've been telling me about this morning that you've done. Whereas if you're not that sort of person, you wouldn't do all that, would you? You'd just get a job and you'd go there and you'd do it and then you'd accept it. And there might be something else like a sport or something in your spare time of doing, but you're obviously like, oh, that's cool. Want to do that.
Try to chase all the rabbits, but sometimes we can never actually catch one.
No, well, sometimes it is worth focusing on the one thing, but other people are different, better at doing other stuff sort of thing. Whereas I've always been that creative person. And obviously, like I said, the BMXing did used to, like sort of cater for some of that, so you had something to focus on. And of course, as I started to drift out of that, that's when you start being like, rabbit in the headlights, what am I doing?
Yeah, do it.
Like I said, the engineering side of things was always there, even when I was just plumbing, because I was inventing like plumbing tools. I used to also, trying to make stuff to solve problems, and I used to really like that, but I couldn't make them myself very easily because working in your bedroom.
So to put timestamps on that, when you went to the Moto GP, did you say that was 2000?
That was 2005.
So how old would you have
25.
been there? So
luckily enough, I was born on a good year, so I don't have to do any maths.
So the bit before that, 10 years prior to that, 15 to
15,
that's when a lot of stuff goes on. What in your head, like leaving education, what did you do and what did you want to do? You obviously went into plumbing.
Yeah, I knew I was going to be in building trade or something construction-wise, something making, because obviously all my years I'd spent at the quarry building the dens and stuff. That's what I enjoyed, making stuff. So I knew I'd either be a plumber, electrician, carpenter, bricklayer. Could have been any one of them. I did work experience with a kitchen fitter, and he did everything. He wasn't on his kitchen fitters just as the units. He was did everything. And I remember going back to this girl's house who I was a mates with, and I was just sat on a bed looking at a radiator, and I was just like, I'll be a plumber. I just picked plumbing just from looking at some girl's radiator. And rather strangely, I did go back about 12 years later and change that radiator. They'd moved out, sold the house, and the new owners had bought it, ended up employing my plumbing company that I work for to come. And I was like, I feel like I need to keep this. This is why I'm here. So
it's now on the wall in the bunker.
but yeah, so I picked that, and I was happy with that. Do you know what I mean? And I always say to people, I'm happy. Obviously, YouTube's amazing and stuff, but plumbing was a good job. I enjoyed it. So, and it was a unique set of events that actually led me to quit the plumbing and go into YouTube, because that would have been a difficult decision under different circumstances as well.
So was it in between that period of life, pre-YouTube, when you say that you lost your dad?
Right.
Was it prior to starting your YouTube channel when you lost your dad?
The YouTube channel was 2006.
Okay.
Dad died very early 2007. So that was literally like a 2.5 month period where all that happened. So there was a change into the guard in the girlfriends as well. She got traded. She got upgraded.
Trust me, I had a very similar period.
I don't
in
think
2021
so.
I had a very similar period in. So no, she's had enough.
Yeah, I don't know if she would sit through. We've 10, 15 minutes in so far.
The point I'm making is we always use our parents as like a reference tool, and sometimes we know. And it sounds to me that even though you didn't let him in the shed, he would have definitely said something about you starting YouTube, in the sense of what would he have thought of about you starting a YouTube channel and actually picking that as, I'm going to go for that as a career?
It's kind of weird, really. Me and my dad lived parallel lives, really. We existed next to each other, sort of thing. We because when he passed, it was like everyone was like, "Oh, you're all right," and I was like, "Yeah, I'm okay." We could see it coming for a long time. He basically had cancer. It was really bad cancer. He had it in his face, sort of thing, and you could actually see it growing. It was a horrific death. But we never. It wasn't like on Saturdays we used to go and do so and so or anything like that. So it was kind of, we lived parallel lives. And although he would have been sort of interested in it and whatnot, but what he'd have actually thought of it, I just don't know really. He was a strange bloke. He was very illogical. Like letting his son have a lathe in his bedroom rather than clearing out the back.
Would he find that funny? Would he find that exciting that you were doing all those kind of things?
I think it would have been better for somebody else to ask him rather than me. I think he used to open up to other people more than he did to myself. And I used to find him because he had this dinghy in the loft, which for ages we thought was a massive dinghy, like the saw that you see all these people coming across the channel in.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when you get to adulthood, you get it out, and it's like, it's just a 2-man dinghy. It's not, but when you're 5, that's bloody massive, isn't it? And
the legend was ruined, basically.
And for years, my mum used to go on, let's get the dinghy out the roof and go down the river, and it never happened. And I remember one day I'd heard that he'd gone out with the neighbours in this blooming dinghy, and I was like, you take the neighbours out then? Sort of thing. And so it was really weird how there was this strange, I don't know, distance between me and him, but at the same time, we did talk, I remember all sorts of things and whatnot, but what he actually thought of stuff, I mean, I think he was proud of me, if you know what I mean, because I know other people have said, oh yeah, your dad's proud of you, whatever, with the plumbing or whatever it was, at the time, sort of thing, but we never really spoke about it. So it was just like this, yeah. You walk past each other in the corridor. Yeah, good, sort of thing. So that'd be it.
Sounds northern.
yeah. But, it's up to him. He did his thing, I did my thing. We never argued or anything like that. We got on.
So when was it then that you uploaded your first YouTube video and actually thought, like did big views or something happen? If you could put like a timeline on that.
So the first ever video, this is going to wander right off, but I'll try and keep it concise.
If you need help with your digital marketing, then you need to click the link in the description and get in touch with me. I have my own agency, Tweak Marketing, which is here to help you take steps forward with your business. We specialise in design, websites, PPC, SEO, ways to help you grow your business. We deal from small clients all the way up to global companies and are ready to take on any project that comes across our desk. I hope you enjoy this episode.
The first ever video is not on there anymore because it was basically a super soaker full of petrol, gaffer tape to my BMX, which we had the blowtorch strapped to the top of it, and it had like a 20-foot flame coming out of it. Now, that was in 2006. In 2010...
Wait, I don't ever interrupt, but listen to this. I have a quote written down here.
Yeah.
On the 13th of March 2010, he uploaded a video of a converted scooter incorporating a flamethrower that could shoot flames up to 15 feet, 4.5 meters into the air. On the 25th of March 2010, Furze was arrested by Lincolnshire police for possessing an object converted into a firearm.
Yeah. So basically, it was brilliant. I got a phone call. I was at work. And they were like, hello, is that Colin? It's Lincolnshire Police. They had my phone number, basically, because I was trying to get the skate park built in town, obviously for my BMXing connections. So they had my phone number. So they just rang me up. And they said, we want to have a word with you. And I thought, I know what this is about. And I said, well, look, I'm at someone's house at the minute. The water's turned off. I can't just leave. I'll be there, come round in about an hour and a half, 2 hours. I literally got straight in the van, jumped back and thought, right, I better get back, get the moped, take it to bits or whatever. Anyway, as soon as I pulled up, they were already here, weren't they? So I pulls up, 2 police officers. This one bloke, I think it was the older guy, said, hello, Colin Furze, do you have a firearms license or whatever? I said, no. And then this other old boy, the young old boy, basically then arrested me. But he was shaking like mad. He was literally like, and I was like, are you all right? Sort of thing. And I was like, I should be shaking. Like, you're arresting me. But I feel like sort of thing. And then the other bloke said, you're his first arrest sort of thing. And I was like, you ain't going to forget this then, are you, boy? So the old boy that arrested me was his first arrest. Anyway, we basically went into the shed. They looked at the moped sort of thing. And then said, right, well, you're going to have to come back to the station because didn't have, all these licenses and whatnot. And while I was in the van, getting driven back to the police station, I was on my phone, like getting private in and deleting some of the videos because I'm like, head. Do you know what I mean? If they're annoyed about the moped, they're not going to like the BMX with a super soaker on it with ideally a bigger flame on it.
Which is why it got
deleted. Yeah, there was a blooming homemade shotgun on it, which was basically like a bit of 3/4 pipe, which somebody had given me some blooming shotgun cartridges or we'd found them somewhere.
Where had the idea for that come from?
Which one?
The arrestable offence, the flamethrower bike.
That was just us messing around when I was, doing flatland.
Just us messing around.
Yeah, sort of thing. It's just one of, this is, I suppose, I don't know, do kids do this as much nowadays?
What, mate, 4.5 metre, 15-foot flame shooting bikes?
Oh, well, the moped was obviously later on, and that was for a YouTube video.
But the first one
wasn't, because that was when YouTube first became a thing. I basically went through some of my old footage that I'd shot, because I used to make like videos on VHS tapes, and you used to get passed around the neighbourhood. So that was before the internet. So, I could hold my head up high and said, I've been doing this way before, the internet would allow you to, or there was any money in it. So this was something I've always messed around with. So we had these little videos, which was called Safety Starts Here, they were called just because there was a sign on one of them.
How ironic.
Yeah, on a building site or something, because there was a couple of things where we used to do. There was like a derelict building in town, which we used to go and ride flatland in, because obviously it was dry. And it had like on the Harris fencing all around it, had like Safety Starts Here. For some reason I filmed that and decided, call the video that. So there was these little VHS tapes of these stupid things. It was a bit like, you probably won't remember it. There was a skateboarding videos called CKY, and it was like...
Remember Balls of Steel, but not skateboard.
That was probably a bit later, maybe, I don't know. But it was like Bam Margera. I think Johnny Knoxville was something to do with it, but slightly later. But it was kind of like the start of all that messing around, doing stupid things. I mean, sort of hurting themselves, which I wasn't interested in. You know, like what was the Welsh boys called that used to bloody jump in stinging nettles and stuff? It was like...
Well, obviously we know Jackass, but that's more...
Yeah, well, Jackass was essentially what CKY evolved into.
Right, okay.
But the Welsh version, I can't remember.
To be honest, I even think KSI jumped in a load of stinging nettles.
He did that with one of the Welsh guys, I think. But anyway, but it all got a bit stupid where they were just literally hurting themselves, you know, for the sake of it. And I was kind of like...
Is that the guy that microwaved his head?
No, that's Jay from...
Yeah.
Well, what were they called? That's all stopped now, isn't it? Because they got stopped. He plastered himself in a bath, blasted his head in a microwave.
Yeah, that's it.
And did all sorts of stupid things. And and they ended up, the police and fire brigade got annoyed with them, didn't they? But so that the original video was kind of like a little bit like that. There'd be a bit of BMX in, be a bit of messing around. So the original YouTube stuff was just original clips of that, which I uploaded. And the first one I did was this BMX with the flamethrower.
Was that uploaded with the view of people watching it and enjoying it, or was that uploaded in the sense of YouTube as a new thing? It was some way you could store the videos.
It was just for people to enjoy. I mean, store the videos. There was 100 meg file limit, so you couldn't upload anything bigger than 100 megabytes. So you either had to scale the quality down to the point where you could barely see it, or it had to be super short. So, and that's so it was literally like, you know, BMX flamethrower. It was probably a 15-second long, 20-second long video at best. Do you know what I mean? And that's what early YouTube was like. It was a bit like, I suppose, landscape TikTok, really, because it was all shorter stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And then it started to slowly get a little bit better. So you might get to like a couple of minutes or whatever. But again, we were still on dial-up. There was no broadband. So
I've seen a lot of the massive view videos on your channel from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I saw like 3-minute long, just wild clips, basically.
And that was the thing, because obviously the algorithm and YouTube as itself has changed constantly over the years. You know, the perfect YouTube video way back then was like 2 to 3 minutes, quite fast paced. Whereas now they want you to upload 30 to 40-minute TV shows, essentially, because they want YouTube to replace telly. So it's all about watch time now and, you know, getting people to stay on the platform.
But in that early stage of you beginning to make videos and actually upload them, did I read that you actually were doing some work in TV as well, or that came along fairly quickly?
This is where it all started to sort of grow at the same point, because obviously from the clips being uploaded to YouTube, you'd get shows, not You've Been Framed, but similar to it. There was like the science version that was like You Have Been Warned or Outrageous Acts of Science. So I was constantly getting clips put on that, and they'd come and interview you. The Discovery Channel from Canada,
making $1,000 a month from 4 You've Been Framed videos.
So yeah, the Discovery Channel Canada was constantly coming over and be like, "What are you doing?" You know, they'd come over like 2 or 3 times a year. So I'd have these tiny little bits of telly, but nothing was permanent. But then the world's fastest mobility scooter, which was 2010, I think. That like was the first project where it literally got in all the newspapers. Like every single newspaper, I think, apart from The Guardian, picked that up and ran it as a story. And then from that, I ended up going on Russell Albert's Good News as the mystery guest. And that was quite funny because he was trying to guess who I was, and he knew who I was. He'd obviously seen the blooming video. And then I thought, well, I've got it here. Do you want to have a go? Sort of thing. So I went backstage to get the mobility scooter and literally went to start it, snapped the throttle cable straight away. And then we were having this banter through the stage wall of me like trying to fix it while he was messing around sort of thing. And he was asking me all sorts of stupid questions. And I got it going. I literally had the throttle cable like over the handlebars of me pulling it. So it weren't safe at all. It could have just literally gone and, you know, Larry into the audience. But I managed to sort of like tickle it out on the throttle. And then and he was like, "Can I have a go?" And I was like, "Well, I can't really know." So I sort of like pushed him around the stage and whatever. And somebody from Sky saw that and thought, you know, he can make stuff. He's got a bit of bants sort of thing. And then I ended up getting brought in for this casting for this Sky One show, this Gadget Geeks. It was like their attempt at the Gadget show at the time. And you could tell I was a last minute addition because when they showed me like the sizzle tape, like all of the other people have been filmed properly in like a studio, and there's Colin on his phone footage basically dropped in with these other bits and bobs. So I got picked for that, left plumbing temporarily.
Okay.
It was also, there was a recession, so we'd been dropped down to like 4 days a week. This was like 2010, I think it was 2010, pretty sure it was, or towards the end of it. So we've been dropped down to 4 days a week. So I said to my boss, like, I've been offered this TV show. I can disappear for 3 or 4 months. That saves you, somebody else to employ, lessens the workload. And I basically just never went back. So,
but what did, because that's not obviously, I can imagine in a way, you're probably telling your boss something, yeah, we built this or we done this, you have conversations with people you work with, and then suddenly, so I've been offered a TV show. How does someone like a boss that you've been working for, someone how did he take that?
Well, it was good news for him.
Because
the business was struggling. To lose somebody without having to make them redundant was music to his ears, because he didn't have to pay me.
It's not a normal situation, is it?
No,
it is a little bit different.
But I suppose I'd been, for the 4 years previous, I'd been coming in, I'd put a video out, it's done 1,000 views, whether they give a shit or not, I don't know.
Was there people that I'm getting at in that circle around you, and the people that we know the most, the people that we work with, the people that we live with and our friends?
Yeah.
Was there people in your circle when you got that first TV gig? It's just like, I always knew you were meant to be on the telly.
I don't know. I suppose once, not initially with YouTube, obviously, because when it was very early, there was a couple of videos, like, I don't know if you've seen one of the old ones where we did the caravan, serving food outside the caravan. This was like a pivotal video in my YouTube career. We started to do these stupid things, if you know what I mean. And I had this idea, was coming back from somewhere, was really hungry, and there was a bloke with a burger van, and I was like, if he was in that now, I could lean out the window and I could have one of them, sort of thing. Like, you could grab a burger off somebody. So somebody had an old caravan, so we cut a door out the side of it, sprayed on like drive on kiosk and whatnot. There was some stupid menus as well, which you probably wouldn't get away with spraying on the side of a van now. And we made this video where we were serving, like Rick come along on his motorbike, and I chucked a load of baked beans, like pretty much in his helmet, and messing around. And then we had this one last clip. I said, it'd be quite funny because everything's dancing around in here like mad, like all the plates and stuff. Set up a load of old china plates. You drive up the road, ram your brakes on, and then all the plates will literally come flying off all the cabinets in there and smash all over the floor. Hilarious clip. So my mate drove off, didn't he? Rammed his brakes on as hard as he could, which was in my truck, which I didn't think, to be fair, would be that hard because the brakes on it were terrible. I had this like big fat suit on just to make myself look different.
You're in the caravan.
I'm in the caravan while it's driving along. So I've got this big fat suit on, which had been made because Rick used to run the local football team and I was the mascot. And the Stamford's famous for Daniel Lambert, which is like a massive fat bloke. So then I'd had this big suit made of this massive fat bloke. And for some reason, I thought, while I was in this burger van, I'd stick this big fat suit on. Turned out to be the thing that saved me. So I got this massive padded suit on. We drove up the road, rams the brakes on. Everything goes flying, including me. I literally do like a somersault, like pass over my head and my legs, but then I blast out through the caravan and literally punch out through the end of this caravan. And like by the time everyone's like, like when you come around to realise like what on earth's happened, like I'm laying over the tow bar and it's like porcelain and stuff all over the road. And I'm looking, there's this hole in the caravan.
Was there a car behind you?
There was a car behind us, which nobody knew about. The caravan wasn't even plugged into the trucks. It would have had no brake lights on or anything. So this poor car would have had to like gone, oh my God, what's happening? And all this china would have gone all over the road. So there's me laughing my head off, like kind of half mangled around the tow bar, just looking at everything, absolutely in stitches. And that was just like one of those YouTube moments. And I remember like watching the footage and go, this will be on telly. Like this clip will get shown on telly and stuff all over the place. And that was kind of like where it was like, if we film this right and do things, do you know what I mean? There's a lot of potential in this.
And was that just like, you say this clip will be on the telly.
Yeah.
These days, you might be lucky enough that you'd have a tracking car, maybe with a cameraman in it, or a van. You'd have some GoPros up inside. I'm guessing where we're talking about, if you put a timestamp on it, roughly.
This would have been
0708.
Yeah, 0708. And Sharp, my missus, she filmed it on a high-8 camera, so it was tape.
She in there as well?
She was in the caravan up against the side, and I went through the caravan underneath her pretty much. So, and we not long started going out. So she had the trial of a lifetime. She passed with flying colours. So she was stood there filming it. There was no such thing as a GoPro. Like they weren't even around then, and if they were wildly expensive and, you know, unaffordable sort of thing. They come in probably, I don't know, 3-4 years later, maybe, once they started to become a bit more, you know, up to date. I think the first one I ever owned was a 3. So I never got a 1 or a 2. But anyway, we digress. So, and it was weird to think now that we looked at it and thought, oh, wow, that's going to be on telly. Like, telly was still like the step up, whereas now I think it's the other way around. Whereas now we're like, not really that interested in telly, really. Let's just make the YouTube channel a success. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not doing all this in hoping to get a talk show on ITV here. You're just quite happy in your van doing it. You just want it to build as it is, because it doesn't need to go on telly. But of course, you know, back in 2007, 2008, that was like the goal.
What was YouTube like as a space then? Was monetization around yet?
Monetization, I don't think, come around until late 2008. And then it didn't get rolled out to the UK straight away. US and Canada got it, and they had it probably for about 6 months or a year. And then you used to have to apply for it. There wasn't like a threshold like you get now. Like if you get to
4,000 watch.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what it is now. Then you would get it. You had to apply for it, and then they would, you know, write back. Luckily enough, I did it, and it come back pretty quickly. So, but even then, I remember like my first month, it was like 10p or something. It was nothing, because even advertisers and things like that weren't even on. You know, it was so early that yes, there was some money to be made. There was no such thing as sponsored videos, anything like that. It was like literally seeing the start of humanity.
So that period up to 2010, those last couple of years, you say that obviously, and I remember it well because my dad, bless his heart, had to get his business through the recession and nearly didn't, especially with manufacturing building products. It was the least houses we'd ever made. Yeah. And then in that period, you say plumbing is probably the least plumbing work that was actually
it was, you know, obviously took a bit of a dip.
So what was funding you? Was that the work that you were doing on Gadget Geeks, that TV program? How were you managing to do these bits and bobs?
Yeah, so luckily enough, when I went and did the TV show, I'm quite good with money, very tight, so still am now. I went and did the TV show, but the great thing about that, it was filmed in Amersham, so it wasn't filmed around here, and I was pretty much hoteled from Monday to Saturday, and it was one of those things where I didn't spend any money, because all your meals are paid for, your accommodation's paid for, your travel's paid for, so everything I got paid, literally. It was only supposed to be like a 4-month job, but TV, notorious for, you know, it's a mess, basically. And it went on for a year, so doing the show, because it got more episodes added, and then they did a special sort of thing. So I ended up doing it for a year. So at the end of the year, everything that I'd been paid was just sat in the bank, because I hadn't spent any of it, because there was nothing, you know, there's nothing to buy. So other than the bills and stuff of the house, it was pretty much all sat there. So I was like, right, well, rather than going back to plumbing, let's use that as my next year's wages to pay for myself for the next year, to just stay at home and start making YouTube videos. And then that's when the channel really started to grow, because I could be here doing stuff all the time. That's where all the pulse jets and stuff like that, and the rocket bikes and stuff. That was kind of the start of that period.
Now, and also, this would be quite a good comparison to make, because I think you've obviously been around on YouTube since the start, so we can draw upon you to ask. You said there's been so many changes in the algorithm and different things. I had a situation last week that I think makes me feel quite frustrated. Right. And I wonder if you notice it anymore on the channel, whether you've been going long enough that it's actually fun. On my other channel, my main channel, I'm known for building this fishing lake. It's just every video that the viewer comes in for, it's about me building the lake. And when I think of you and the content that I came into and started to enjoy, bunker. Yeah. Absolutely love it. Digging underground.
Well, I'm tunnel guy at the minute, ain't I?
You're a tunnel guy.
Yeah.
But the stuff you enjoy a little bit like me is these crazy, wild ideas, like when you go off and do jet bike. I have to admit, a personal favourite was pizza delivery on the back of a bike, the pizza oven.
Good video. I enjoyed it.
So do you find these days with YouTube that do you feel like YouTube makes you feel like all you should be doing is tunneling under the house? Or do you think you've got the ability to, because I put out a video last week, and this is the bit that irritated me. That's why I talked about, do you like numbers? Do they affect you? Which was, I had this crazy idea. Yeah. I'm going to race my crazy car, Lamborghini, versus a fisherman. Right. I got a fisherman that can cast 1/4 of a mile, well, not an 1/8 of a mile, sorry, 220 meters. And I just wanted, I just wanted to drag race him. I just had this idea. I was like, I'm going to do it. Went and did it. I was like, this is going to be such a good video because I thought it was, because I like fishing and I like cars. And I was like, this is epic. Like, everyone's going to watch that. Like, is the fisherman going to win? Completely died. 10 of 10. First ever 10 of 10 on the channel. Didn't get clicked. And I just come out of it thinking, does all YouTube want me to do is dig? And is that the same for you?
I think compared to when YouTube started, YouTube itself is way more intelligent. If you think when you upload a video, it can transcribe everything you say. You don't need to put tags in anymore, do you? It knows what your video's about because the AI or whatever, the machine in the background has worked out what you're doing. It can probably even look at the video to a certain degree, see a digger, see things. So it knows a tunnel video is tunneling. It's not like, it doesn't matter what you title it, it will know what you're talking about. And I think nowadays, when you go on YouTube, it shows you your homepage is basically other stuff of what you've seen with the tiny amount of, oh, you might like this, you might like that. Way back in the day, there was none of that. It was just the original homepage used to be like a scrolling video thing. So for 4 hours of the day, there'd be one at the top and then it would slowly go down. And it was just something that somebody at YouTube picked. Like there'd be some guy who'd obviously be looking at all the upload. Oh, that's quite cool. That's quite well made. Put that at the top. And then that video would get all the attention that day. I was lucky enough, my first Wall of Death video got on that page in the UK. And that was one of the things which leapfrogged my channel because everybody that went on YouTube saw that page. And also, I think years ago, you'd start off by searching for you doing a fishing lake. And then 20 minutes later, you're watching somebody making a blooming ass out of matchsticks or something, completely unrelated. You know what I mean? You used to go down that rabbit hole of YouTube. I don't think that happens as much now because everything suggested is very similar to what you've just watched. So you get stuck in these echo recommendations. Yeah, you get stuck in these echo chambers. So the people that have come to my channel have come because they like tunneling videos. Whereas when I go and upload something else, whether it be the pizza bike or like the recent one, the wall of drift trike on the Wall of Death, it's probably like, but this guy likes tunneling. That's not tunneling. So it doesn't get pushed out so much. So it's kind of like, it's not necessarily a bad video. It's just that all your subscribers might have been there for the fishing lake sort of thing. And then YouTube's kind of thought like, it's a bit off topic, this is. So you never know, it might get a second wave. But I think it's definitely changed. I don't think for the better, because I preferred back in the day where you literally was going all over the place watching all sorts of different stuff. And I definitely preferred the original homepage because there was this video about sequoia trees in like Yosemite and these guys that used to climb them. I'd have never searched that. I know what Asperger's thing is because there was this kid who did a video on Asperger's. And of course, all the comments were like Asperger's and stuff like, why have you called it that? But it was quite good because we ended up watching this video, kind of understanding a bit more about it and stuff like that. And then, like when people write first, the comment, that was a video which was put on the homepage of this guy. When I see a video and I just go first. And that's where it came from, was that one video. And it's like things like that have only started because we've all seen that same homepage. We've all seen them same videos. Whereas now you go on and all you'll see is either things that people have uploaded or stuff, like if you watch a car restoration video, all you're going to see on your homepage is other channels doing car restoration and a few other bits and bobs. I get shown a lot of space stuff because I'm quite interested in all the SpaceX stuff. And,
love it.
Things like that sort of thing. But the other little nuggets, the random ones, they're in there, but they are a bit more sparse now. And you have to
Why can I suddenly see you trying to land a booster in your garden facing upwards? Why can I see that being a thing?
I've seen, because there's a model rocket guy that managed it, didn't they? He sent like this model rocket went up about 20 meters and then come down and then it sort of like self-landed itself.
There's something you said earlier and we've got a draw on it, which is, well, I was doing this TV show. I put my money in a pot to sykes. I'm quite tight, you see. All I need's me tea, enough money probably to build something crazy and be simple. But there is a 13 million subscriber channel, which is what people see straight away, that number, straight away. So then they go, big YouTuber, Bob. And before I come to mate, it's really good because normally when I do guests, and if they're really in the automotive space, it'll be a friend of a friend or met them at a show, but you still get involved with all the automotive side of it because you've done so many things with car projects, all the rest of it. You sit just in that circle away, which is more inventive and creative. So I didn't have too many people that knew of you other than Andy, the safety guy I've been with last week. And everyone, if I mentioned it to someone down at Gertwings where I go every week and sat with people, have said, there's no way he still lives in that house though, is there? He's got yeah, I know someone that knows him. He's got a mansion up in Leicester that he actually lives in. He doesn't live in that. There's no way that he lives in the bunker house. There's no way that he still does that other channels or the rest of it. Do you want to tie that up right here, right now?
I do still live in the house, so.
And I can see why, because I've had a full tour and been underground into both different bunkers, the original bunker at the bottom of the garden and the new tunnel system under the house that goes to the driveway where you're building.
I see the current work in progress, we should say.
The current, and we looked through, just we got to the front door of the house, there's a tiny little gap about this big, and you look down to see the 4-meter abyss going down into the rock below. That's the current project then.
Yeah.
But it's not easy to put a video out on that every week.
No, it's, I mean, the second channel was because everybody, when I used to put the first channel ones when we were doing the tunnel, obviously everybody wanted longer videos. And so I just want to see you dig sort of thing. It's kind of strange. So the second channel was sort of born of the people that wanted the less edited stuff. But the biggest problem I've got now is the second channel did way better than I ever thought it would. And then I've kind of got this problem now where the main channel is nearly ending up like a season review because people who have seen stuff on the second one in like, kind of longer form, and then they'll go to watch the main channel one and be like, oh, we've seen all this. And yeah, well, of course you have, because that's what you wanted. You wanted to see everything less edited and stuff. So I kind of have to, in my head, I've got 2 videos going on. I'm like, right, people want to see that, but let's not show absolutely everything. So when they do watch the main channel one, it's not, it's just not a tightly edited version of the second channel. So kind of made a problem for myself, really. But I thought the second channel would be on like, I don't know, 100, 200,000 subs at the most, getting like 50, 60,000 views, if you know what I mean. Just so it wouldn't really
Am I willing to place a bet and say that I reckon the second channel has out-earned the main channel as well at some point?
In some cases, because it's more frequent.
Because of those factors. It's stuff that you wouldn't think was going to happen.
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing, obviously, I suppose the problem I've got compared to some other YouTubers is my videos take a long time to make. Do you know what I mean? I can't pump stuff out weekly. Even second channel stuff, it could be a little, it could be weekly, but I think people would get fed up a bit quicker, if you know what I mean. Everyone says they want more, but you do still have to kind of, leave them wanting a little bit, because it will, just digging a hole is gonna get tiring, boring for even the most diehard of tunneling fans. So obviously if you look at, how the sponsorships work and stuff, it doesn't really pay to be my sort of YouTuber, because everything takes so much time and takes a lot of resources. Whereas somebody that looks like a gamer or whatever, who can just pump videos out in a day, if they get paid the same amount, because I don't know, how it works with other YouTubers, so they can do more and more frequently. So it's kind of weird, really. My, attention to detail and wanting to get stuff right and stuff taking long does cost me money, really. If you looked at it in a business sense, you would do things differently to try and increase your productivity.
So do you edit all your own videos?
I do. I still film them all. I edit them all. There's no one else doing any designing or CAD work or anything like that, or putting anything else together. It literally is all me. I experimented with having a filming guy, but it just felt weird, the camera moving. And I've always thought that some people watch my videos and they feel like it's them in my shed talking to me. And if the camera starts moving, then they know someone else is in there. And then that kind of breaks that bond a little bit, if you know what I mean. So, and also it's just like, it all boils back that to that thing, like, this was my hobby, it's what I do in my spare time. If I start having loads of people doing all sorts of stuff, then I've got to people manage, haven't I? Sort of thing. And then it's like, if one day it's like, I'm not really vibing it today, do you know what I mean? I'm going to take it easy a bit today, but I've got somebody standing there. What we're filming there then, Colin? Well, you're not filming anything, mate, because I'm just, I'm thinking about messing around with something else or whatever. So
that right there.
Yeah.
So that's Colin's brain. It's been Colin's brain since I'm thinking about messing around with this. I'm going to create this. I
might be thinking of the next project or something.
A doer.
Yeah.
Do you ever really pay too much attention to the business side of it? The running of the business?
Not massively, really. It does what it does. Do you know what I mean? I make the video. It's got a sponsor. It goes out. hopefully it does the best as possible. It obviously does well for the sponsors because they all come, Surfshark, whatever, probably sponsored like 8 videos now. Do you know what I mean? And they want to do more. They're like, yeah, we'll do X amount or whatever. So they're all, so it obviously does well for them. I try and make the sponsored sections as interesting as possible because, they are normally quite boring, aren't they? Just go, oh yeah, if you want to, save yourself some money or whatever. So I'll try and do something stupid while I'm reading it. So at least if you're not interested in VPNs, you can think, what the hell's he doing now? Like, I've done them with magnet shoes and upside down and messed around and stuff and things like that. So, but I don't want to employ loads of people. Rick, who's like kind of semi-retired now, he was who I work, I was his plumbing apprentice. So we've been mates for years. So that was just like having my mate with me all the time. So that was obviously different. Whereas as soon as you like put an ad out and try and, get somebody, I don't know, it just changes everything. So, and then of course you've got the whole insurance issue. Like, if I employ someone, that's all of a sudden then that sends everything into the next tier of issues, doesn't it? With like public liability insurance and stuff like. I mean, I can be stupid. The one person of the company can do what he likes, if you know what I mean, because he's not putting anybody else in danger. Whereas if I've got somebody else there, all of a sudden, like this hole, with all these bits sort of cut, that's the problem. That is, if he goes and blooming spikes himself on a bit of rebar or whatever, then you're in tricky water there.
It seems like you're fairly sensible with that type of thing. But obviously, one of my last podcasts I did was with Andy from MSS Safety. He did really well. I was really interested in.
Yeah, we me and Andy have crossed paths before.
Why have you crossed paths?
Well, because I did a pilot for. Can you remember? Probably won't remember this. There was a set of videos called Fart at the French or Fart at France, where it was essentially the idea, because pulse jets are ferociously loud. It was like, if we have one on Dover and point it towards France, could you hear it in France, basically, across the channel? So I made this giant steel bum, poked it through its bumhole. So it was like we were farting at the French. But he was basically the health and safety person. And he came out, we'd built this huge pulse jet. It would only just fit in here, to be fair. And he had to come out and be a health and safety sort of thing. And he could see and knew what I was doing. I, built, all sorts of them before. Knew all the, if it didn't light, the gas sinks, it's all on the floor, blow it all out the way. I wasn't lucky. So he was, he was fine with it. But originally I had it in the back of my pickup truck. So I had it fixed on a frame. So it was stuck in the back of the pickup truck. And then you'd basically just reverse up to the bum with the thing poking through. And it was a lot easier to mess around with because it was all like semi-constructed. And we filmed this thing with it on the back of the truck. Looked awesome. And the bloody director or producer come back the next day. Can't use that footage, Colin, because it's you've got it in the back of the vehicle. And
so this was for TV?
Yeah. And
which is why Andy was there as well.
And the insurance, health and safety people at the telly were like, you can't run that in the back of a vehicle, it's a fire risk. And I was like, come on, it's a diesel vehicle, there's no fumes, it's not just going to spontaneously blow up, you're all being a bunch of pussies sort of thing. So and that was one of my things where TV was just like, I can't deal with that. Do you know what I mean? You just you're just causing problems for yourself. You want me to be me. This was what I'll tell you, this is typical TV pitch. Yeah, we like Colin, he's really good fun, crazy, he does all these weird things. Yeah, let's make a TV show. And then you'll go, yeah. And then you're going to make the TV show. Whoa, what are you doing? You've been all crazy and fun. You can't do that. And then what you end up with at the end is utter nonsense. So, but Andy was all right. He, I don't know whether he argued the point and saying, you don't need to worry about it. It's far enough from anything for it to be a fire risk. But there you go.
But on the subject of risk, you mentioned the story about how your then girlfriend of not very long, together not very long.
No, the previous one.
When you shot out the back of a caravan.
Oh yeah, that was Charlotte, who's my current girlfriend.
Yeah.
But
you hadn't been together.
No, she doesn't like being called the current girlfriend. Yeah, she is my partner. So, and has been for 17 years.
That's my point. So that was right at the beginning of the 17 years.
Yeah.
And she must have been very new to it all, seeing you go out the back of a caravan onto the tow bar holding the camera. I mean, she's obviously been very relaxed to different things that you've done. Is there a point where the real safety boss has said, that was stupid?
No, she trusts my judgment, I think. So that I'll turn around and say, no, we're not going to do that because that might do this. I'm trying to think.
Well, I'll give you an example.
So when I've ever said
last night, I always make sure I've got a bit of a structure and questions and things I don't want to forget, but I try not to follow it. And I always try and get in the zone and the evening before on the way up of the guest I'm speaking to and content and just a bit of a refresh. So last night I invited my mum over for dinner. At dinner, I said, "You've got to watch this guy, Mum. You're going to love him."
What did you have to
eat? I put him on. Made some Thai food. Had a pad Thai noodle, chicken pad.
I always think Thai food's like Indian food you've chucked in the bath.
She'd never had it before. Mum liked it. She had some prawn toast. She liked it.
But anyway.
And I put on my iPad a couple of your videos. The first thing Mum said, she absolutely loved them, and she genuinely has gone and subscribed and is watching now. She was absolutely cacked her, but he's not wearing a helmet. Yeah, the first thing she said on the bike. Do you ever get so sick of the comments in the comments section with that initial reaction and comment that you just think, I'm going to put the bloody helmet on?
Some of the first tests, like the Dodgem, the 100-mile-an-hour Dodgem, first time I ever rode that, had a helmet on.
Oh, that was a dangerous one, was it?
Well, the first time you ever test a vehicle, I'll stick a helmet on just to, because you don't know what it's going to handle like. So, but they don't always make the cut, if you know what I mean, because they're just the test runs. I suppose in the early days, I did get known for the lack of safety. I mean, it's like the whole shirt and tie thing was sort of born from that. The wall of death, which is where it was first rode with the shirt and tie. The reason why I had the shirt and tie on was because the moped, which was the moped that I bought to go to the Le Mans thing and trash, I was the only one that brought mine back because I got attached to it because mine was actually quite good. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to burn mine. I quite like this. I've, gone away to Le Mans on it. But it was like an old Honda Sky and it was like a brownie colour. And I looked at it and thought, only an old granddad would ride this. So I used to dress up as a granddad whenever I rode it, and the shirt and tie was part of that suit. So then when I come to ride the Wall of Death with it, I was like, I've got my moped outfit on, innit? So I got my shirt and tie, but I left the green cords off because they were just terrible. And there's this jacket, so I had my jeans on and just had this shirt and tie. And everyone said like, "Oh, he doesn't need a helmet on. He's got a shirt and tie on, and it become the safety tie or the safety shirt." So that was all from comments. It wasn't my idea. And then of course, because the YouTube was in its infancy, I kind of thought, well, if I wear the same clothes in every video, then if you see two separate videos at completely separate times, you'll tie the two together, sort of thing. So that's where the kind of outfit came from. But the whole helmet, I didn't wear it on the Wall of Death because my helmet at the time was quite heavy. And you don't realise when you're going around a Wall of Death that weight on your head is literally pulling your head over. And it's quite a lot. It's really strange because, I mean, I've recently, with the latest drift trike one, you don't realise how much force you're under because, have you seen that video, one of the most recent ones? I've basically run my foot over. Essentially because the drift sleeve blew up on the drift trike, and your initial reaction, because the drift trike doesn't really have any brakes, it's got one on the front, but it doesn't, front brake only is pretty useless. So you put your foot out to kind of slow yourself down. Well, of course, I'm going on the side. As soon as you take your feet off, they literally just want to get whacked to the wall. So of course, this one hit the wall and then tucked under and ended up running it over because of the G-force. And I remember doing the Wall of Death years ago thinking, I'll take my feet off, and it literally goes sort of thing, because you are under that much force. But when you just sat on a bike, because it's sort of going directly down and into the seat, you don't really feel it. So, but I remember when I did put a helmet on, I was like, I don't like this. This is not nice. You were having to like kind of force yourself. But I don't know whether that's why the Wall of Death.
The first time I felt that, I was driving, I got the opportunity to drive a crazy car on the road. It was road legal. It's called a BAC Mono. Clarkson famously drove one on Top Gear once.
It's a bit like Ariel Atom sort of thing.
But I drove one with a helmet on, maybe, and I just remember the second I got on the motorway and it was all blustery, like straight away, every time I looked at the mirror, my head was like getting dragged either side in this helmet because the extra weight was just, I was like, I just want to take this bloody thing off. But then you take it off and you got wind in your face. You just don't know what to do. But has there been a moment that has woke you up a little bit that things really do hurt? Have you ever had like a real big incident?
I have looked back at stuff like the jet bike. Like I look back at that and thinking that could fail any minute.
We actually had a look at it because it's at the bottom of the garden.
Yeah, it's at the bottom of the garden at the minute with all weeds growing around it. I've let the weeds grow around it because I might I might get it out at some point and see if it still works, because technically there's no moving parts. And I thought, let the weeds grow around it, because it looks like, it's like a barn find then, isn't it? I look at that and think, like, a happy shopper is not a strong bicycle. You know what I mean? If the forks failed, do you know what I mean? You're gonna
no help.
Yeah, you're gonna bite the dust, sort of thing. But yeah, so you could call it stupidity. I suppose some of it is, I see calculated risk, but there does come a point where it's a 50, where you just, I either do it with it or do it without it, sort of thing. And I suppose at the early days, it might have been, I suppose, not for the views necessarily, but it was just what I was known for. But I mean, as I've got older, I have sort of scaled back on that sort of stuff a little bit. I mean, when I was building the new wall of death for the drift trike, I kind of thought, wow, I've got tools and the space now. I can build a really good wall of death. And it weren't until I put the first panel up and I was like, why am I doing this? I'm like 44 years old. I don't need to be doing wall of deaths now.
And you've got a little one as well.
Yeah, I got 2 kids, sort of thing. And it was kind of like, I said, I mean, why am I doing this sort of stupid stuff now? So, but I mean, I managed it. So yes, I ran my foot over. But
when you say you managed it,
yeah,
did you really want to do it as much as you would have 20 years ago?
Probably not. I wanted to build it. Do you know what I mean? I wanted to build the wall of death. I wanted a nice smooth one. But when it come to actually doing it, it was kind of like, I haven't thought this through, have I? I've gone like, channel vision. Yes, build a really cool wall of death, massive, loads of slip rolling, stuff like that, moving stuff around with the JCB. And then it was nearly like the afterthought was like, I've got to ride this now, sort of thing. And I was a bit nervous before I did it, because obviously I'd not ridden one since I was like 27, and that was on a bike, moped, completely different. I mean, to be fair, I thought the drift trike would actually be easier because you sat down. I thought you can't high side a drift trike, or you can't get a speed wobble on, sort of thing, and then end up like just crashing in a different way. But it was more nerve wracking in a weird way, because it was just so different. And obviously I had to really concentrate on my weight distribution, because if I leant too far back, the steering was just non-existent. And if you leant too far forward, it wouldn't grip, and it was slip down all the time, which was technically what I was trying to do, because I wanted to get a drift on it. That was the idea, was can I drift on the wall of death? Because sometimes I will think from the thumbnail and the title video backwards, and I'm like, yeah, drifting on a wall of death. That's awesome. Let's have a go at that. So, and it's
only if something absolutely extraordinary happens during that video that it'll make you another thumb and title moment.
Yeah, there's something else happens, sort of thing. So, but yeah, so I sometimes, I'll have these ideas sometimes, and then halfway through, I think, I don't know why you're doing this, but I wouldn't give up. And I often find that they're the ones you're nervous about starting, the best projects. Bunker, like the first day, like Tom come in and ripped the hedge down, I was proper nervous that day, because I'm like, as soon as he starts digging, we're doing this. There's no going back. Once you've got a massive hole in the garden, you're doing it, ain't you?
Yeah.
Sort of thing. And it's that moment, which is where I think most people...
Trust me, I genuinely know exactly what you mean.
It's easy to back out, isn't it? But it's not easy to persist with something. And I think there's loads of people where there'd be anything, where they get cold feet, it could be job interviews, it could be anything where they're like, I'm not sure about that. And it's that pushing through that initial thing, because once you start, it's fine. You've got something to build on, but it's just that first step.
The thing with digging a hole is that all blokes were born to dig holes. Like, it's inside every one of us. So whether we're at the beach, wherever, we just want to dig a hole. And when I dug my hole in the field, and you'll know exactly what I'm on about, there's a moment where the majority of the stuff is excavated, and you are just stood looking at what essentially looks like a very misplaced quarry in your back garden, in your space,
and that's
thing.
Nearly
and you
the worst
wonder
point.
How it's going to get to the thing that you think it's going to look like from there a little bit.
Yeah, because from that point that you've got to do X to get it to something that's either finished or back to what it was. Do you know what I mean? It's like even filling it in would be a ball ache. So even if for some reason you had a massive panic attack, I'm like, I can't do this, we've got to fill it in. That's not an easy task, because
bring the lorries back.
Yeah, but
everyone send your cans back.
Yeah, but it's just So there's just those moments. If you can just push through them, you'll be all right. But I think that's the bit we need to teach people, is getting past that initial fear and anxiety, of what you're about to do. And it could be anything. It could be all sorts of things. It might even be going on a date with a girl. Do you know what I mean? It's easy for, if somebody texts you, do you want to meet me? And you're like, oh, I don't know.
When did you learn how to do that? Or was that always been installed in your personality?
Do you know, I don't know. I think it's kind of like...
just a doer.
Yeah. Well, if you don't do it, you feel rubbish, don't you? You know if you've not done something. You know inside. Like,
I'm going to have to ride that bloody death try around the wall of that.
Yeah.
Death.
Oh, yeah. I built the blooming thing. I'm not going to build all this and not do it because I'll know, like somebody walked in that barn. I was like, what's this? Oh, it's a wall of death, but I don't ride it. Do you know what I mean? I ain't never saying that sentence. So, do you know what I mean? And it's like, I'm doing this. So, and the same with lots of things. If you've chickened out or you've not given your best or there's something not quite right, you always know. And if you ever put anything online and somebody said something like, oh, you could have done that a little bit better, whatever, that comment would hurt the most because you'd agree with them. Do you know what I mean? You'd be like, yeah, it's right, actually, that bit was a bit rubbish, wasn't it? Sort of thing.
Do the comments affect you?
No, I get brilliant comments, to be fair. I mean, you do get people going, oh, that was a bit dangerous, or why don't you do this? You get armchair engineers, as I call them, saying, oh, you're doing all that wrong, you want to do this sort of thing. I just ignore it.
Just build an armchair.
So, yeah. But no, I mean, I think I don't know if I exist on a different internet because generally, or whether it's because I'm a bit older as well, whereas abuse, like if somebody was to like give me any abuse, I'd either just ignore it or I'd write a stupid comment back. Because some of the comments, there's when we were first building the tunnel, there was this one bloke that was proper angry. Oh, you're wasting council time. This is ridiculous. This is a waste of public money, or you're just, an idiot or something. And I think whatever his name was, and I think it was Gary or something. And I just commented, Gary's not had a good day. So, do you know what I mean? And things like that. And I'll comment stuff up. But, when I was plumber, I grew up on building sites and stuff where you would get, you get people come and take the mick out of you. There was this one old boy who used to work for this company, and he used to enjoy, like, if an apprentice started, trying to wind him up to the point where he'd go home crying. Do you know what I mean? And it was nearly like your initiation. You had to survive Wigo. Do you know what I mean? He would probe you all sorts of things. He'd be saying stuff about your mum and things like that, or your sexuality or whatever, and he'd just keep probing. But he'd never work with me because I just used to laugh it off. And I'm like, oh, here we go. What's Wigo going to say? Tell me now, if you know what I mean. And you just, you get through it. Whereas I think people don't have that nowadays. Do you know what I mean? You don't get that. You don't get these people because they'd probably get sacked or something now. It will go to HR when so-and-so said something. But I think that's part of, sort of, to a certain degree, part of growing up. It can go too far, if you know what I mean. So it goes into the bullying terms and things like that. There is a fine line, but I don't know whether I could just deal with it better so it never affected me. I don't know.
So it seems like it takes quite a lot to affect you, but a 17, nearly 20-year period on YouTube, making videos, having that as your career, building crazy items, objects, coming up with like the next idea, tunneling under the house, how to make it work, learning with sponsors, maintaining a relationship without coming off a jet bike. All that stuff will have those moments of elation that we laugh about. That's just like, oh, do you remember when I did that? And I did that with Rick. And like those are the moments that you live for. You forget that it's even monetized about half the time when you have those moments of elation. But just to balance it out, what has been probably your toughest challenge to overcome on your journey as a creator?
I mean, different projects have been challenging in different ways, but I mean, there's like technical challenges, I suppose. I don't know, really. You just deal with things in the moment, break stuff down, do it bit by bit. There've been times where I've like scared myself, if you know what I mean. The 360 swing, there's a big swing I made in the back garden. I remember the night before I first go out, I didn't sleep. So I was like, what the hell am I doing here? This was my idea as well. There was no sponsor involved. And there was, if I'd have just folded it up, put it away, it would have only been me, that would have known about it. But we did that thing, when you lay a tent on the floor, well, you think, that's not very big, is it? And then you put it up, get inside it. Oh, it's quite spacious. Well, basically, we laid the frame out for this swing with the because you buy steel in 7.5 metre lengths. So I'm like, right, triangle, longest part of the triangle, 7.5 metres. That's the biggest we can make. I can't make it any bigger than that without joining bits of metal. put it on the garden. I was like, yeah, I'll do then. And then you pointed it up and shit, that's halfway. Do you know what I mean? That's where the axle goes. So I'll be, twice as high as that. And I remember just thinking, oh God, what we're doing. And also the houses were all being built behind us at the time. So all the builders on the building site, on the scaffolding, were kind of looking in, thinking, like, what's going on here then? So they were off. Sorry, I was like,
YouTube,
setting the eye on it as to what was going on. And we put it on, and then we went to put the swing bit on. It was supposed to be 2 bars like a swing, but we could barely get it together. So it just had to be 1. So this 1 bar was a bit flimsy, if you know what I mean, flexing around. And I remember having a bit of a swing on it before it had a counterweight on it. And I was
the test run.
Yeah, the test run. And I was like, God, this is not sure about this rig. This is blooming weird. This is. And then, like I said, you attack it in small bits. And I'm like, well, look, I've never done one before. I've never been on a 360 swing. And here I am building a huge one. Let's lower the axle, bring it down, have a go on a smaller one, see what it's like, and then go back up to, and that's what we did. So we shortened everything, brought it down, literally put the counterweight on, had a swing on it. I was like, it's easy. Like literally once you go around it once, it's like, no, this is not a problem. Built it straight back up, to the big one, strengthened it all up where it needed to be because it was all wobbling all over the place. And then had a go on it. And then our first time I went right over, like on the big one, the whole building site. I was like, yeah, because all these builders were all sat down on the scaffolding, of course, all watching, and the whole place literally erupted. It's a shame we never caught that on camera, really, because obviously I was so focused on the thing in mind.
But you
never
think
thought about this audience that was actually watching it.
That's been the toughest challenges of actually just getting yourself over the line to do certain things? Or has there been a point that you've just not wanted to upload another video of something's trials and tribulations, like you just had enough, or has it never really been like that? Have you just
get points where you get fed up with it? Because like with everything, there'll be jobs, it is a job, like Tom Scott. I don't know if you know who Tom Scott is. He's like kind of stopped, isn't he? And he said,
I watched the video and he said about that.
Even if it's the best job in the world, it's still a job, sort of thing. There are times where it's like, I just, I can't be bothered with trying to solve a problem today. Do you know what I mean? Because that was a good thing about the tunnel, really, is once we got into it, it was literally like working in a factory. We knew exactly, it was repetitive and constant, but that was actually quite nice. Whereas when you're building other stuff, like pizza oven bikes or whatever, you're trying to work out, right, how are we going to fit the pizza oven on? How's the chain going to work? Do you know what I mean? We need to stop Rick's back setting fire and all that sort of stuff. And all these things that you have to try and do. Sometimes that's quite tiring. Do you know what I mean? You just want to, just do something you know how to do sometimes or whatever. So that can get quite tiring, but it's just, you go through these phases. I went through it with plumbing because I was the maintenance plumber, basically. I used to get sent out to all the problems, like, someone's boiler had broke, if they had, needed a little fixing things. Very rarely did I do like full central heating or bathrooms and stuff like that, where you'd be in the same house for like, a week, 2 weeks or whatever. So I was the fix-it guy going around, and I just remember thinking, every time I turn in, it's always a pain to get to. It's always under a sink, there's never anything just at head height that I can just see sort of thing or get to. But you get through these periods. I used to find tidying my van, or setting my van out really nicely. So you get as exciting. So at least I've not got to go back to the van and be like scratching around, like, where's all that? So my van was literally immaculate. It was full of the spaghetti and sausages tins. So I used to have spaghetti and sausages for my lunch, and I'd save the tin, and I'd had all these shells, all these tins out, and I'd had each individual fittings and stuff. And everyone used to take the mick out of it, all these tins. But it was like, if somebody asked me, have you got 15 mil elbow? I'd go to them and go, yeah, I got 20. Do you know what I mean? And it was everything. It was just like racking, basically. But, tight Colin, just using his tins or whatever.
So Tight Colin runs a 13 million subscriber YouTube channel and another second channel as well. Does all the editing, builds all the creations, everything yourself. And you still live in the same house that you've tunneled underneath and are doing everything that they're gone. Do you obviously have to do quite a bit off site as well? Is there any other part of this whole process?
Well, I've got the barn for the second channel. So obviously there's a lot of stuff up there. I've obviously had to stick, a bit of money into that, with the JCB, the telehandler and stuff and things. So obviously some of it's gone.
Was that a
towards
big moment? That was you saying, "Type, we got to buy something else now."
Yeah, I mean,
was that your man shed up the road?
Well, I say I'm tight. I won't waste money. Like, I bought the telehandler in a flash, and because I remember I went to look at it, and Charlotte was like, "Oh my god, you bought it?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, we need it." Do you know what I mean? And it was reasonably local, sort of thing. And she said, "Well, do you want to go and have a look?" I said, "No, it'll be fine. I'm not driving around the country wasting days and days going to look at them. Well, probably all the same. None of them have any service history. They all get used by farmers and builders. It's you look at the hours, look at it's just that's what it's like." And I just bought it straight away. Whereas we went into Sainsbury's. I went shopping and there was I like Muller Corners, and I went into Sainsbury's and I picked him up and it was 95p. And this old boy, which I hadn't seen for years, bumped into me. He was like, "Oh, Fuzzy." And I was like, "Look at this, look, 95p for a Muller Corner." He just burst out laughing. Said, "God, the amount of money you've earned on YouTube and you're arguing over a Muller Corner." I was like, "Yeah, but you normally get them for four for £2 or something, 50p. I paid 95p for a Muller Corner, chucked it back."
I knew you were going to say you put it back.
So that's Colin. He'll spend a lot of money on a plasma cutter or something, won't think anything of it. But you try and get me to spend 95p on a Muller Corner, I'll put it down and walk the other way. So,
and are you always thinking of the next project?
A little bit, yeah. I've got a list. There's like a little note thing on my phone which has got all ideas. Some of them have got little dots next to them, the ones I've done or sort of done in a strange way. So I've got like a whole list of things, but I keep telling myself, like, once this tunnel's finished and everything, I'm going to do a bit more spice racks, as I call them, which is just smaller stuff. Because obviously, mentally, this garage is quite exhausting because of the scale of it. It's in the front garden, so it's on show to everybody. And it's just big, and obviously I've got to make a car lift. It's all got to be covered. There's all the all the cats and everything.
This is the bit that I don't think people realise the other side of the camera. So the thing with some of my other friends that are YouTube creators, they're able to repeat the processes and tasks that they do because they're rebuilding crash damaged cars. For a crash damaged car, you don't need things like planning permission, neighbours, all that kind of stuff. It makes what you're doing quite challenging to kind of repeat, doesn't it? People don't, I think, through the camera necessarily see that.
Yeah, there is more levels to it, I suppose. It's I've been quite lucky in my planning experience has been quite good.
Not something you usually hear.
No, and to the frustration of some people, I've seen some comments like, I didn't get. They didn't pass my extension, but this guy can dig up, half the road. And I think, the reason why mine's been quite swift is it is underground, so you can't see it. Because I always think, this is how I see it. Planning is should it be there? Does it look right? Is it in keeping? Does it affect anybody in terms of light, things like that? Underground stuff doesn't really affect it. So as long as structurally you're not, undermining the highway or the path and stuff, planning doesn't really care if your house falls down. That's not their thing. So that's like building control, if you know what I mean, whether it's been done properly. But I don't know if it's changed, but they were slightly different. Like, if building control come out and were like, we're not going to sign it off, it didn't necessarily mean you had to change it, although that may have changed now. It was just like, we're just going to be angry with you and you won't get the certificate. And then when you come to sell the house, it might cause problems. But then I'm not selling that house. It'd be my kid's problem. So, and if it's not fell down in, 40, 50 years time or whatever, that's I think anyone will care.
They'll be able to live underground anyway.
Yeah.
It'll be all good. So it's better down there.
But yeah, so the planners have always been pretty good. I've done it 3 times now. Bunker, tunnel and underground garage was all done retrospectively. So basically I started, I got the poo, chucked it into the fan, and then they come out and we're like, whoa, what's going on? The bunker was slightly different because that was going to be applied for initially, but that was a sponsored job from Sky. But Sky never literally actually signed it off till 3 or 4 days before we would start to do it. And I thought, I'm not going to put this planning application in for something that might not happen. So that kind of was put in while it was being made. Whereas the tunnel, I just thought, how do you even approach this? So I thought, well, let's start it. There's also sometimes I think when people can come out and look at something and see how you're doing it and what it looks like, you don't have to rely on their imagination to fill the gaps in. Because I've found this a lot is when I explain what I'm going to do to someone, it doesn't always, it's not in their head the same as it is in mine. When I first moved in, I built my shed, because the shed that I've just, that you've been in, that wasn't there obviously when I moved into the house. And I remember telling the neighbours I'm going to build a shed here. And I think they pictured corrugated iron, shanty town, the sort of thing, the vuvuzelas.
Did you have a little bit of thing on YouTube with them?
No, I don't put them in the videos because they don't want to be filmed. They don't want to be, in it sort of thing. And this was obviously 2009 I built that shed. So that was years ago when it was like 2 or 3 minute video, stick your neighbour in us, taking up valuable space. So, and I think they were a bit worried about this shed that was going to get built. And then of course I built it. And he was like, well, it looks really nice. That's brilliant. Like what paint have you used? Where did you get all the feather edging and stuff? All of a sudden it was like, that looks really good. So obviously how I'd explained it wasn't good enough for them to fill the gaps.
Maybe they'd seen some of the other projects. You never know how things are
maybe. But it was the same with a tunnel. It's like if you apply for a tunnel, like also I didn't want to worry the neighbours because I'm digging a tunnel near my under my house. It's near yours as well. There's a thing called a party wall act or a party wall line where basically if you draw a 45-degree line from your neighbour's foundations, if you cross that, then you do have to ask them for permission. But I made sure it was far enough out the way. It never went that deep, so it never affected it. That you never crossed that line basically. And then once the council did come out and look at the tunnel, you could see, steel box absolutely covered in concrete sort of thing. And they're probably used to going and seeing like, breeze block house extensions or whatever, which I always think you just run up and kick them over or whatever sort of thing. So mate was like, this is pretty cool. So, and also you couldn't see it. So it got past. I have, and I do feel lucky for that I haven't come up with, more opposition from it. No one's ever moaned. Like when I put in for planning for the garage, no objections. Guy up the road, he thought it was brilliant. So he put on the, thing, yep, awesome. He's doing a really good job of it. He's trying to make sure, we're not impacted as much sort of thing. So, but then I think that's just a communication thing, how I talk to people.
Do you think that's because you're the humble guy that does put the Mullers back in the shop?
Maybe.
So being that guy, what's it like when you get like a 10 million subscriber plaque turn up? Does that make you feel like almost strange? Like I can't actually believe that.
A little bit.
To click that.
The 10 million play button was actually one of the moments where I decided to not worry about subscribers anymore, because it was 2020 I got it. I remember when COVID hit, I think I was on like 9.1 million. And then obviously everybody got told to stay at home, and Colin Furze videos became, views went through the roof. And I did the video where I basically like, what's the bunker like 5 years later? I mean, there's kind of nothing in that video really. It was just talking about the fact it's not gone rusty and I still use it. But of course I went through all the stuff that you've seen hanging on the wall. So it was a great little video to advertise all the other stuff I'd done. And that video did I think it did 20 million views pretty much in like the first week, 2 weeks. So it went absolutely nuts. And that's literally what sent from the 9.1 up to like 9.8, 9.9. It just, subscribers just were going mental because everyone was stuck at home. So I remember the girl from YouTube, you get like a manager person, I presume, I don't know what it's like for other people, if you know what I mean. And she said, we can see you getting near the 10 million. So they order it, they pre-order them sort of thing. And then, so I had it in the house when I was like, I think 30,000 subscribers off it. But I never got it off. I'm not going to open the box until I actually cross it. And I remember it was going to be like 12 o'clock. So I was like downstairs because I thought I'm not waking everybody up, if you know what I mean. So I sat downstairs sort of thing, sat there with my box. And as soon as it crossed over, I opened it and I kind of looked at it. And I sort of felt like that was the last one I was probably going to get on YouTube, because to get to 100 or 50, I'm not sure when the next proper one I think is 100, but I think they have given them out at different points for random channels. So it's a PR stunt after that, if you know what I mean. So you might get one at like 50.
But it's almost like you completed it.
Yeah. Stages. And I kind of felt like, for one person doing, all the stuff that I do myself, the editing and film, and I thought I've done well there. Do you know what I mean? That's like my gold medal, if you know what I mean. Just don't worry about the subscribers now. Park it. It's a stress you don't need to worry about. Because it had been like something I was building up to beforehand, try and get to 10. It was, it was like my BMXing trick, it was that one trick that I wanted to try and do. So once I got to it, I kind of just told myself, just relax now, Colin, just relax, do whatever. So just don't worry about it,
And is there anything that you've not done? Because that's an incredible achievement that you'd like to do going forward with your channel as you like move into like the next phase. Like, do you collaborate with many people?
Oh, really? I've always kind of thought like, if I'm going to have somebody in my video, there needs to be a reason for them to be there. Like I've done the odd thing with James Bruton. He's like a robotics, electronics expert. And we made this Alexa operated flamethrower where basically you could say, Alexa, turn on the flamethrower, and it would literally fire this flamethrower. Which I, by the way, have got all the certificates.
I'd be shocked if Elon hasn't watched one of your videos.
So I'd love to know that actually. So he was there obviously because I looked into how you would try and, get it to talk to the Alexa, and it started talking about stuff that I didn't have a clue. I was like, this is way over my head, this is. So he was there to do that, to fill in that skills gap, if you know what I mean. But most of the time, I kind of want to try and learn that thing myself. So, and that's the whole point. Like when I built the land speeder, that was all like bodywork, English wheeling and stuff. It would have been easy to get somebody who was a metal shaper in to come and do bits of that and work together. But I was like, well, I want to have a go at it. That's the whole point of my channel is that, you try and learn stuff and do stuff you can't do. So I don't normally, do collaborations or anything like that really. Yeah. So, and also when you film everything yourself, it is quite difficult to film two people and to make sure that it's all being covered right and you're not, it's hard work basically filming, having somebody else there that's also part of the video.
Well, Colin, I've absolutely loved watching your journey since I found your channel and actually going through the back catalogue, because that can be just as fun sometimes when you get captivated by stuff and having those moments where you're sat with your mum eating Thai food. That's where you realistically watch something at a dinner table, watching a man drive a hot tubbed car down the road with water splashed everywhere. So thank you for putting a smile on my face.
All right.
13 million others' faces, other than the odd comment here and there, which you can reply to. Put a smile on your own face.
It's all good.
It's been amazing to hear about your journey as a creator, and thank you for giving me the time to come on my podcast today. So, pleasure to meet you.
Excellent.